Barbie. I'm back, and I'm so excited today. We're going to be talking to Kristi Magraw, who is so many things. She is an author, a writer, a musician, a healer, a massage therapist. She has so many things, and we're going to be chatting to her today about all her projects. Hey, good morning, Kristi. How are you? Good morning. We figured it out.
Say that again.
I'm glad we figured it out and we're here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tricky to figure out schedules and get people together, but it was so important to me to make sure that we chatted with you because you have so many things in common with so many of my followers here. Mm-hmm. So we'll get started by just asking you a little bit about your facial paralysis.
Okay.
And how that came about, and then we can chat about your other projects.
Okay, so it happened, well, I was born with a condition called Magraw, which is 1 ear. And then when I was, at that time, my parents and community didn't notice that I had a disability. So I felt fairly normal. I loved music. And then when I was 9, though, it was recommended by a school nurse that I get an operation done,
okay,
to install an eardrum, to put in an eardrum. This was 1991. It was the dark ages, as far as those type of things.
Right.
And so in the process of having that operation, they cut a facial nerve and they tried to repair it. I was under for hours and hours. So in that process, because of the intubation, I lost my singing voice as well. So when I woke up, I only had half a smile and no singing voice. I could speak, I could talk,
but not the deeper vocal cord kind of.
Yeah.
And how old were you when that happened?
I was 9.
Yeah.
Oh.
So most of your life then. Now, obviously, you've...
Yeah.
Obviously.
I had the identity of being a problem that needed fixing for many years.
Yeah.
Until I began my healing journey. Yes.
So throughout your life, you had the facial paralysis. Now, obviously, you've gotten your singing voice back. You've gotten your writing. You're an author. You're a healer. I would assume that experience was a primary reason of why you became a healer.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you do as a healer.
A variety of techniques, physical and psychological. So in the physical, I studied massage, reflexology, shiatsu, and the mind, I studied peer counseling and then psychodrama, which I studied for a long time. The psychodrama study helped me overcome my self-consciousness around my appearance. And
yeah, that's what I was really interested in chatting with you about, especially for our followers here, is that kind of angle, is moving forward when people have this experience, especially when it's sudden onset, that you're not sure whether it's going to go away, and then it's kind of like, oh, okay, this isn't going away. Yeah. And having different techniques to be able to focus on other things. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, the technique and things that you've developed or successes you've had with other clients about that?
Yes, well, whatever the things that helped me, I would use to help others. Mm-hmm. And I developed what I called my Magraw method. And I found that self-massage was very helpful. Massage in general, because it calms the nervous system. And I actually found that my musical journey was very helpful because it integrates the left and right brain functions. And because, facial paralysis is mostly one-sided, then that implicates imbalance between the left and right brain functions. So
right, and then so the music, because you're using both, it's kind of...
Yes.
bringing it back into
Yeah.
balance or
Yeah.
focus or
Or balance.
yeah.
Yes. And so also music helped to calm my nervous system. And of course, I did things like yoga and acupuncture. Acupuncture was a great experience for me because my acupuncturist, who was Chinese, um, and she was a very motherly person. So every time I made progress, she would ooh and ah and just. So that was important healing for me to have someone noticing and then being excited about my progress.
Yeah.
So I I developed the embody technique, so addressing the issues of PTSD to whatever degree the person had it. And everybody who has a disability has PTSD because of the uncertainty and because of societal attitudes. So I worked a lot on a concept I called stretching the envelope, which is basically instead of pushing through in a survivor's pattern, I learned to very slowly, whatever my current edge was, I would work with it step by step. And not that I didn't push through many times.
Well, you have to push through even those little tiny steps too sometimes.
Yeah,
but I do experience that a lot in my life, with people in general, facial paralysis aside, that, we do have something that we're going through, whether someone passed away or whether, you're having a hard day at work, and you can't just be like, oh, it'll be fine, and like put it over on the shelf, because I think we learn as we go through life that it will come back unless we sit with it and feel the feelings and heal there.
So the music and the songwriting, my voice did recover, but then I got an additional disability called dystonia, and that's actually what was wrong with my voice. But it took so long for me to get a diagnosis on that.
And what's that?
Dystonia is an imbalance. Again, it's an imbalance in muscles, left and right, and you have random muscle weakness, and so just muscles start giving out, and then that affects your movement. So that's what was my vocal cords.
But then, like you said, back then when they were doing the work on you and surgeries and things, I mean, that was so long ago and there wasn't as much information.
That's right.
Now, were you able to figure out what that diagnosis was, or was it a doctor?
What happened was, no, I figured it out actually. And during the writing of my book was when I, finally went, okay, this is my diagnosis. I did see a therapist, and that he was part of that diagnosis. But I didn't fully understand it at that time. So when I was writing my book, I kind of put it all together, and I began to do a recovery program.
Now, interesting, isn't it, that once you started to be like, you know what, that's not quite right. Like, it doesn't feel right. That diagnosis didn't sit right with you. You knew that you're like, kind of, some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't. And as you continue on your journey, you started to learn, I would imagine, to listen to your intuition more and then kind of speak up. And I think that that's what happens with a lot of us, especially women. I mean, men, yes, but I think especially women, where we're starting to now in society just be like, oh, hold on a second, that doesn't quite make sense. Just because that person's a doctor, or just because that person's supposedly more educated or smarter than us, that it isn't right, regardless of if it checks all the boxes. If it doesn't sit right with you, there might be something else for you to look into. And I think that that's really important for everybody to kind of understand. And in anything actually in our life, I guess, if you're in a relationship and it doesn't, you're like, oh, it's perfect. If it doesn't sit right with you, it's not. You want to keep on trusting your intuition and your gut.
Yeah, so I kept on keeping on, and developing myself and developing this kind of patience just to slowly move forwards. And then I met my friend Kristi, who we have the same name, we have the same ear, we have the same facial disability.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that made a big difference. I felt more safe in the world, and we were able to share tips and help each other. I mean, actually, I got the name from her sister. Her sister had done research and went, "Oh, I think you guys have microtia." Anyway, wonderful. Was a massage therapist too, so she could work on me in a way no one else had worked on me.
Right.
So that was, yeah. So in the writing of my book, I had another whole layer of healing, partly because I had to go back to my archives, all the writing I had done, I had a shelf of journals.
Yeah.
And so I saw in a narrative form all the work I had done on myself. And unfortunately, COVID hit right when I was self-publishing it. So I didn't get to do a book launch, I mean, I may still, but that was how it was. But I really enjoyed the process of writing the book. I discovered that I am a writer. One of the comments I got from a reader was, your book, like fiction, so well written. I can't believe so many things happened to one person. So I went, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened, and I learned how to write about them, and that was exciting for me.
Well, yeah, to be able to put it all together, and that's something that I'm working on. It's the next step for me, is you have all the little journal entries or blog posts or things like that, and then putting it together in a cohesive.
That's great. You're putting it together. Yeah, so it's an exciting process to be able to write and to share the knowledge that we've gained. Right?
Well, and all the things that we've learned. I mean, you have a lot of things that happen to you, and it kind of puts meaning and purpose to it if you can share and, use your voice and talk with other people and bring other people's stories to life. And then you also have now your music. Your music is something else that you're working on that you wanted to chat about.
Yeah.
I was reading about that on your website as well. And
I played guitar since I was 8 years old and studied all different styles. Never went to school formally, but took lessons. But then I really wanted to sing, even though I had a disability in my singing voice. So I studied singing, and I sang well enough during a certain period, so I became a performer. I also was in a theater group at that time. So and then I lost my singing voice again, and so that was a big setback. So I had to learn how to sing again, which is a work in progress, but it's happening now. And I'm very proud of how I persisted.
mm-hmm.
My songwriting is good. I trust that. And then I also wrote during COVID, I wrote tango music on my guitar.
Cool.
And that was really fun.
That's fun. Yeah, tango is so fun.
Yeah. So the music keeps on happening. I actually wrote a song that has a disability theme. And this was one I was really quite angry about the attitudes, because I could see how attitudes had stopped me. It wasn't me stopping me. It wasn't my disability, but it was the attitude towards me that stopped me. So,
mm-hmm.
Can I read it?
Other people's attitudes.
Yes.
Or your own.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, anyway, yes, so this is the verse that was about me. Born with happy heart, though she only had one ear, her doctor said, I'll experiment on you. We'll make it over and you might hear, but don't be mad if your smile disappears, and hide your bitter tears. Before today, you've been hiding us away you've been hiding us away from the world, from ourselves. In your ignorance, don't you pity us? Don't you glory us? See us now for who we are.
Lovely. Yeah.
So that was my English.
Yeah. And I think that that's wonderful, just to be able to express it and for other people to hear that those feelings are normal. And a lot of people with facial paralysis have very, very similar experiences, that we need to stick together. Like you said, look how amazing it was when you met your friend Kristi, to just, with one person, just to feel like you literally said you belonged somewhere, you had someone to talk to, all of these things, you felt safer. So for us to all come together from all our different angles and help and support each other is really special.
Yeah, and get through some of the, PTSD hiccups that inevitably come along, right?
Well, and I do think that's a really important thing to address, because I think that when we think about PTSD, we think of, major catastrophes that may happen to a person, such as a soldier being in a war or things like that, of course, and that's a different level of PTSD, absolutely. But for us to not feel PTSD at the level that we're at, just because it feels like such a big title, is really important. I know for myself, when I look at it, you're like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, so I shouldn't feel that way, or I shouldn't. And then it goes back to where you're saying, where you need to feel those feelings, really address it, and understand that there is PTSD there. There is constant fear of, for people with facial paralysis or Bell's palsy, of it coming back, maybe coming on the other side, all of those things. And then that's real and okay for people to sit with.
There's a new term. It's called relational trauma, relational PTSD. And because the face is what we present to the world, then when something changes or we have a difference, then all our relationships are affected. And that can echo to other traumas in our childhood. So think about it that way, and it's sometimes easier to own it and to then, of course, start
to begin. Exactly. And I think that it's just that first step to kind of start to kind of understand that there is grief involved, there is PTSD involved, there is all those things, and everybody experiences at a different level, regardless of anything that we go through in life. And as you said at the beginning of our conversation, it is important to sit with those feelings and not just push them aside. You got to walk through them. You got to walk through the mud.
and also to address it at a body brain level. Actually, the newest technique that I've been using online, because it works so well online, is a mind-body technique called havening. And it addresses a nonverbal, or the aspects that we can't tell a story about of our trauma, physical trauma for sure.
What your body is holding as opposed to what your mind can realize.
That's right. And so it's very effective. And it's helped, me, and I like to use it online. It's quite effective online.
Online meaning in an online appointment, like I can book an appointment with you to do that.
A Zoom appointment.
It's crazy. That's fantastic. And I do think that, because I know that our brains, yes, certain things they just can't handle, or I don't have space for it. So it pushes it aside, and we're now affected physically. And I think a lot of people with Bell's palsy, with the sudden onset facial paralysis, I mean, there's trauma there that came from somewhere. And whether we kind of know or not, I do believe, and a technique like havening would definitely be very effective on healing.
It would be.
Our internet, I think the internet's jumping in and out, so that's why I'm awkwardly pausing.
Okay.
But thank you so much. I think, Kristi, I would love to have you on and actually discuss havening specifically in an interview again, and if you would be down for that, because I think that that's definitely something that I think a lot of the viewers here would be interested in hearing about. We do have a lot of people, I have a lot of people that message in to talk about trauma and healing, and I think that our community really needs to come together and help each other with that. If anybody wants to find information about Kristi, they can go to her website. I'll post it in the comments. It's kristimagraw.com. Very easy. And you can find your book there, your CD there, about information about all her work there. Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me. The internet is kind of like jumping in and out, so Kristi, I may be done. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again. I definitely want to talk to you about the havening technique. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.